Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Kayode Okikiolu.
Tonight, Labour Party presidential candidate Mr. Peter Obi outlines his developmental agenda for various regions of the country, vows to build a new future for Nigeria. Governor Nyesom Wike pledges to provide logistics support for a Labour Party presidential flag bearer ahead of the 2023 presidential election. An APC presidential candidate, Mr. Bola Tinubu, meets with business community in the southeast, promises to address their concerns and enhance their business operations.
On business news tonight, the African Development Bank, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and French Development Agency launched tools to support private businesses in Nigeria and other African countries.
On sports news tonight, Senegal Football Federation confirms African Player of the Year Sadio Mane out of this year's FIFA World Cup owing to a leg injury.
Nigerians now living in poverty, according to the 2022 Multidimensional Poverty Index released today by the National Bureau of Statistics.
And in international news from London, China's Xi Jinping has been filmed accusing Justin Trudeau of leaking meeting details days after they held talks at the G20 summit in Bali.
The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, today outlined his developmental strategy for the regions of the country, promising to develop the vast lands in the north for agriculture, make the southeast the manufacturing base, while the southwest, he says, will be the financial hub. Mr. Obi and his running mate were guests of River State Governor Nyesom Wike at the commissioning of the 9th flyover in Port Harcourt, the state capital. And in what could be described as an alliance across party lines, Governor Wike promised to provide logistic support for Mr. Obi ahead of the election.
It's day 4 of the last quarter of 2022 project's inauguration in River State, and the massive crowd is here to catch a glimpse of Governor Nyesom Wike and his guest, Mr. Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, in company of his running mate, Mr. Yusuf Dati Baba Ahmed. They are here to inaugurate this 993 meters long Nkpolu-Oroworoko flyover, the 9th constructed by the Wike administration to open up the once congested Ikoku Junction on Ikwere Road. And Governor Wike believes it is important to show proof of stewardship irrespective of party platform.
For us, it is not about inviting your party alone. It's about inviting Nigerians come and see what we have done, what we are doing. So most of the things people read on newspapers, most of the things people say, I'm sure you will tell your members of your party, the Labour Party, let us not drag anything in River State. The PDP government in River State has performed well, and therefore there's no need for us to worry. There's no party that can win the PDP in this state.
Mr. Peter Obi, on his part, commended Governor Wike's competence in leadership and reels out his economic plans for the nation if elected.
I've said it before, that every part of Nigeria, I will give a future. I've told you North, the vast land, are next to you. So we cultivate it. Nigeria must feed itself. And I've told the people of the Southwest, you'll be the financial center. The East will be a manufacturing hub. We will route the East to rivers where we will export goods from. So Port Harcourt will remain the export city of this country. We will do it. If we leave state for them, it will leave federal for us. negotiate it. No, you are in charge. And we will not quarrel with you. Anybody who quarrels with you doesn't know what he's doing. Governor Wike have said that it is us. Everybody should speak the truth. Everybody should do the right thing. And that is what we are starting with a new Nigeria. A Nigeria where people will speak the truth. A Nigeria where people will do the right thing. A Nigeria where we will be commissioning project. That is what we came here to do today. To commission projects. This is how Nigeria we want. Where we are commissioning projects. Not where we are giving excuse. That this one happened, that one happened. May this be the future of Nigeria. The greater and better Port Harcourt and River State to the glory of God. Amen.
With the commissioning of this latest flyover, the River State government reinforces its belief in providing an enabling environment for businesses to thrive in the state.
Meanwhile, Governor Wike seized the occasion to speak on the claimed lopsidedness in the appointment of heads of security agencies in the country, a swipe believed to be directed at his party's presidential candidate, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, who was speaking during a meeting in Lagos on Wednesday.
When I hear people go to town hall meetings and they say all kinds of things they say they will implement restructuring. They will make sure that every zone will have a member in the Security Council. That it is not good for one zone to produce all the security chiefs. You see, it is not good, but it is good for one zone to occupy all party positions. You see how Nigerians are. You see how we are. I will implement that every zone will be represented. I will implement. That is town hall meeting. That is debate on television. Because everybody wants Nigerians. Oh yes, he's saying the right thing. But no Nigerian want to say, let us start from this one now. Let us start from this one. Starting from this one, we will know what you will do when you get there. It's not true. Don't be so. Start from the party as a person. You have all the criteria. You have all the characteristics that will lead this country. You have it. Nobody can deny that from you. You have it. All I pray is for God to give you the strength, to give you the wisdom, and continue to move from one state to the other. Each time, anytime you want to come to campaign in the state, let me know. All the logistic support we will give to you.
And in neighboring Delta State, a pressure group known as Grace Mission has been launched with the aim of supporting candidates perceived to be competent, irrespective of their party affiliations. A convener of the group, Engineer Daniel Omoibo, led members of the group and its choice candidates to the palace of the traditional ruler of Ole Kingdom to inform him of their intention to support their candidates and receive his royal blessings. The group insists they will not be forced into supporting candidates who are not competent just because they are affiliated to a particular party.
Members and supporters of Grace Mission, a pressure group in Delta State, take to the streets of Ole community. Their mission is to create awareness of their presence since throwing their weight behind some political candidates ahead of the 2023 general elections. The procession heads to the palace of the traditional ruler, where the leader reveals who they are supporting.
I am here to tell you that I, Daniel Omoibo, your son, as far as presidential candidate is concerned, I am not supporting any other person than Atiku and Okowa as president. And Atiku, Okowa, they are contesting under PDP platform. And I will create your indulgence that everybody here to please vote come 2023.
From here, the train goes to join other supporters for the inauguration of the group.
I am voting for candidates, and I am campaigning for candidates. I'm not campaigning for party, and I know over 50,000 voters. Nobody will make mistake. I'm not going to do it alone.
Some of the candidates promise quality representation if elected.
The theme of my campaign is Hello 2023. Hello means light. So much darkness. We want to remove darkness from the land. We want to remove poverty from the land. We want to bring light to the people. I will represent them 100%. I will always report to them. I will always have a town hall meeting with them. I will tell them this is what is available. What do we do with it? Or what do you want in my constituency? I'm not going to do it alone.
The leader of the group also gives grant to some owners of small-scale businesses.
Also security now. The defense headquarters says troops have neutralized 13 members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra IPOB during separate encounters with the military in the southeast. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Musa Demmadami, made this known while briefing journalists in Abuja on the achievements of the military across its different operations in the last 2 weeks, including the northwest and northeast regions.
Within a week in focus, troops neutralized 13 indigenous people of Biafra and Eastern Security Network criminals, arrested 6, including their herbalists. Troops also recovered 8 AK-47 rifles, 7 pump-action guns, 3 locally made pistols, 1 sniper rifle, 15 rounds of 7.62mm special, 1 INEC image capturing machine, 1 INEC box, among other items. Troops also neutralized 13 Boko Haram terrorists, arrested 10 and rescued 41 civilians, while a total of 250 Boko Haram terrorists and Islamic State of West African Province members and their families surrendered to troops at different locations within the theater. Troops of Operation Hardened Daji in the northwest zone of the country neutralized 16 terrorists, recovered 13 AK-47 rifles and 150 Russell cattle, among other items. Irrespective of whatever is happening in the country, we will continue to do our work. And I think that should be enough assurance. I equally want to thank you for your cooperation in spreading the news about the bounty. It has gone far and wide, and people are beginning to, I'm sure people are going to be enthusiastic about it, following the way you are propagating the story. That list is going to be continuously be reviewed based on information we are getting from the intelligence community.
In part 2, after the break, APC presidential candidate Chief Bola Tinubu promises an improved ease of doing business environment in the southeast. Plus, Inspector General of Police reads the riot acts to political parties, warns them against instigating violence ahead of the 2023 general elections. But that's in a moment. Stay with us. You've just joined us. You're watching the news at 10, live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Labour Party presidential candidate Mr. Peter Obi outlines his developmental agenda for various regions of the country, vows to build a new future for Nigeria. Governor Nyesom Wike pledges to provide logistic support for Labour Party presidential flag bearer ahead of the 2023 election. APC presidential candidate Chief Bola Tinubu meet with business community in the southeast, promises to address their concerns and enhance their business operations. And China's Xi Jinping has been filmed accusing Justin Trudeau of leaking meeting details after they held talks at the G20 summit in Bali. Well, let's now bring you more on the engagements of the presidential candidates. This time around, the flag bearer of the All Progressives Congress, Chief Bola Tinubu, is assuring the business community in the southeast of improved ease of doing business, as well as massive investment in the region to increase the GDP if he's elected president in 2023. Chief Tinubu made this promise during a town hall with the private sector and traders associations from the southeast in Owerri, the Imo State capital.
The presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, his running mate, Kashim Shettima, the national chairman of the party, Abdullahi Adamu, the director general of the Tinubu Shettima campaign organization, Governor Samuel Along, as well as other key members of the Presidential Campaign Council, gather in Owerri, the Imo State capital, for a town hall meeting with the private sector and traders association. This is the first time the APC flag bearer will be having this type of meeting in the southeast since he clinched the party's ticket. Governor Hope Uzodinma and his Plateau State counterpart, who doubles as the Director General of the presidential campaign, highlight what the event is all about.
I'm almost certain that he has captured comprehensively what the issues and problems are in Nigeria. And I have seen that here comes a president who is ready to go.
Our presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has an enviable track record of working with the private sector both as a governor and politician. Having worked in the private sector for many years, he understands the very important role they play in partnering with government towards sustaining the economy.
Some members of the business community in the southeast take to the floor and they bear their minds, especially as it relates to the ease of doing business in the region.
The prevailing policies, which seem targeted at stifling the growth of commerce, business and industry in the southeast, are addressed, such as the multiplicity of various extortion points in the name of custom checkpoint, police checkpoint, army checkpoint, immigration checkpoint, across all the major highways in the southeast, even in our streets and in the marketplaces.
In his response, the APC presidential candidate assures members of the business community that their concerns will be addressed in such a way that will create a win-win situation.
A simple technology code that once you have it cleared with your good and you got a sticker, either on your container or in the vehicle conveying it, no other agency of government will be able to stop you and exhaust you again.
Next, he promises to tackle corruption and insecurity and asks the people of the southeast to support his plan for a better Nigeria.
Corruption will stop when Felix doesn't need to look for 4 million at a time to buy a little car. When that car is assembled here, the insecurity that is being emphasized by our other political parties and rivals, they don't understand the meaning of marginalization, segregation, and lack of coordination.
The APC Presidential Campaign Council says this town hall meeting is one of the numerous engagements scheduled by the presidential candidates for the purpose of having direct conversation with critical stakeholders in major sectors ahead of the 2023 polls.
And now to a riot act from the Inspector General of Police to political parties, asking them to keep the peace in their politicking or face the full wrath of the law along with their foot soldiers. Mr. Osman Al-Kalibaba issued the warning today during a meeting with the parties and other stakeholders in preparation for the 2023 elections at the force headquarters in Abuja. The meeting, he says, became necessary as the police have recorded 52 cases of politically motivated violence across 22 states in Nigeria, and that since the official commencement of campaigns on September the 28th. We apologize for the distorted audio there, but we're still in the nation's capital, Abuja, but this time in our studios where Gloria Mizuoke is sitting by with more stories on the news at 10. Hello, Gloria.
Hello, Coyote. Well, we begin with not too cheery news, as a total of 133 million Nigerians have been estimated to be living in poverty, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, which released a 2022 multidimensional poverty index today. The figure, which represents 63% of the nation's population, shows that the index captures mostly those in rural areas, especially in the north, with women and children largely affected. The survey shows that over 50% of children across the country are affected by poverty.
The launch of the Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index is bringing together top government officials, development partners, and key players in the economic sector to put forward the findings of the survey. The survey, which sampled over 56,000 households across the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT, conducted between November 2021 and February 2022, states that 65% of poor Nigerians, representing 86 million people, live in the north, while 35%, nearly 47 million, live in the south.
While the monetary measurement of poverty makes use of consumption expenditure as a means of determining the level of poverty, the MPI approach uses deprivation in basic amenities as a means of determining the level of poverty.
At the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, we will continue to play our oversight role as the government's institution tasked with policy and project designs, as well as the monitoring and evaluation of projects. In this context, the MPI will be used to systematically track progress against the Sustainable Development Goal 1.
The measure used to calculate the figure was based on the Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index, MPI, and contains 5 components: health, living standard, education, security, and underemployment. While the report identifies Sokoto State as having the most poverty levels across states with 91% and Ondo with the lowest at 27%, children, women and persons living with disabilities are worst hit. The figures come with concerns from development partners.
We need to understand poverty as a phenomenon that is affecting children in different ways, whether it is monetary or multidimensional.
However, the federal government says more investments will be made to change the narrative.
This is a report that pinpoints the level of deprivations and its intensity that confronts our citizens, all of them. Beyond this, it also provides substantive evidence of the positive impact of the multi-sectoral interventions of the Buhari administration, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, which also demonstrated our commitment to eradicating extreme poverty in Nigeria.
The survey is then launched. This is expected to serve as a wake-up call to the government on how to allocate its resources and provide policies to address the gaps identified.
To legal matters, the Federal High Court, Abuja, has discontinued a suit filed by the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, against the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, and the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, Ahmed Abubakar. Mr. Kanu had filed the suit seeking, among other reliefs, an order of the court directing the defendants to pay him the sum of 20 billion naira, being general and exemplary damages. The suit, which was before Justice Ian Ekwo, sought to challenge the manner Kanu was arrested in Kenya. According to his lawyer, Mr. Aloy Ejimako, the suit was discontinued for strategic reasons that would be inappropriate and unprofessional to disclose publicly. Well, part of the reliefs sought in the suit includes a declaration that Kanu's arrest and imprisonment at a location in Kenya and the subsequent imprisonment in the aircraft that conveyed him from Kenya to Nigeria amounted to false arrest and false imprisonment. Justice Ian Ekwo had earlier fixed Friday, November the 18th for the hearing of the matter. Well, more details on the trial of Chidinma Ojukwu, the key suspect in the murder of the chief executive officer of Super TV, Usifo Ataga. Today, she told a Lagos High Court sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square that the two statements she wrote to the police station were torn and she was forced to sign the ones written by the police officers. But Chidinma, while testifying in a trial within trial to determine the voluntariness of her statement's defense, told Justice Yetunde Adesoya that a Deputy Superintendent of Police, DSP Olusegun Bamidele, wrote a statement asking her to rehearse what he had written and made her narrate same to the Commissioner of Police. DSP Bamidele, who was serving with the homicide section of the State Criminal Department, had testified as the first prosecution witness in the trial within trial. Chidinma, in her own defense, said before she was taken to the Commissioner's office, her hands were handcuffed to the chair she sat from June 23 until the morning of June 24, when she was brought out of the interrogation room and taken to Ikeja. After her testimony, Justice Adesoya directed the prosecution and the defense to each file their written addresses within 14 days. The court then adjourned the case to January 11, 2023. Following the damage to major roads across the country owing to the recent flooding, the Senate is asking the federal government to declare a state of emergency on federal roads and improve funding for the Federal Road Maintenance Agency. The upper chamber made this request after considering a motion moved by Senator Gershom Bassi. He proposed that the sum of 500 billion naira be taken from the service-wide votes for the rehabilitation of FEMA.
The Senate is further aware that the 2022 floods have further worsened the deplorable state of Nigeria's federal roads. The Senate is worried that some major interstate roads are impassable as water has washed off most parts of the roads and bridges, creating economic and human security crisis. The Senate is concerned that road transportation is the major means of transportation in Nigeria, since air transportation and others are not within the reach of most Nigerians. The Senate further concerned that the heavy vehicular and human movement of Nigerians associated with end-of-year festivities will be impacted negatively as a result of the deplorable roads occasioned by the 2022 floods. Accordingly, this Senate resolves, 1, to call on the federal government to immediately declare a state of emergency on federal roads and improve its funding. 2, that a service-wide vote allocation of 500 billion be made to the Federal Road Maintenance Agency for agent rehabilitation of roads ravaged by the 2022 floods. And 3, that the NNPC Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme be extended to cover maintenance of failed sections of federal roads.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Coyote.
Well, thanks, Gloria. To the health sector now, where it was a day to honor the legacy of Dr. Ernest Dublin Green, a dental surgeon who made an indelible impact in dentistry in Nigeria with valuable contributions that are still felt this day. This was the highlight of the Nigerian Dental Association's annual general meeting in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, where the need to improve dental hygiene with current techniques was also advanced by the doctors.
The event, which had the theme Pathways to a Fulfilling Dental Practice, had in attendance students, top dentists from across the country, academics and representatives of the Rivers State government. The keynote lecture was delivered by Lagos-based dentist Chukwuma Emeka and was dedicated to the honor of the late Ernest Dublin Green, the first ever dental surgeon in Nigeria.
Passion for providing excellent dental health care in the most conducive environment. I believe this is the main driving force that will create this practice that will bring you fulfillment. That passion, I believe, is what causes you to begin to visualize. As your passion drives you and you begin to see images, you will then begin to envision that practice. So if your target is a practice that brings fulfillment, then you must have a very clear vision.
Speaking to Channels Television on the sidelines of the event, two of the late dental surgeon's daughters eulogized their father's significant contributions to the growth and advancement of dentistry in the country.
If you're blessed in any way, if you're given something, like my father was, even from his humble beginnings, so he thought first of all about where he came from and those that were looking up to him. And so he returned home to give back to the society.
I'd just like to congratulate the Nigerian Dental Association, the Rivers State chapter, for continuing to put up this annual lecture for Chief Dr. Green.
There was a debate between some of the schools in attendance, and the prize-winning students were excited to share what they'd learned from the lectures.
You should treat your employees and also your patients with a good amount of respect.
And what I learned today was about dent history and the qualities of a good dentist.
From this conference today, I was able to learn a lot. I was able to learn on tasks, dentistry, and all of that.
The Nigerian Dental Association holds its annual general meeting, during which solutions for dental health challenges are tackled.
One of the foremost private universities in the nation, Nile University, is set to hold its 10th convocation ceremony. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the Vice-Chancellor of the university, Professor Dili Dogo, explained that the institution is proud to graduate 421 students with first degrees and 421 postgraduate students. He adds that the university is also graduating 73 first-class students.
Nile University is the foremost university in Nigeria's capital, consisting of 6 faculties united by a commitment to providing education of the highest quality. Every faculty in the university is led by reputable academics dedicated to driving innovation in research and learning. It is for this reason that the university is holding its 10th convocation ceremony with 842 graduates.
Nile University shall be convocating a large group of youth that have been found worthy in character and learning. Of those to be graduated will be 421 undergraduates and another 421 postgraduates. Of these 421 undergraduates that will be graduating at this convocation, 73 of them bag first-class degree honors, 161 will have second-class upper division, and 182 will have second-class lower division. Of course, there are 5 graduates who will have third-class degree.
At the time of its establishment, Nile University had 3 faculties: Arts and Social Sciences, Natural and Applied Sciences, as well as engineering, with less than 100 students. The Vice-Chancellor provides an insight into the relationship between Nile University and honoris universities.
With the takeover by honoris United Universities, and with increased facilities, infrastructure, and manpower development and retraining of our academies, there has been a surge in enrollment of students across all faculties.
As the university continues to leverage on its relationship with honoris universities, the management says the institution is now a global-ready university with an international outlook and career-ready graduates with innovative skills to succeed.
And now to our coverage of the COP27 in Egypt, where there are fears that an agreement to reduce global temperature rise to within 1.5 degrees Celsius may not be realized at the UN Climate Change Conference, as the first draft agreement released has omitted steps to take on fossil fuel. Well, the document, which is described as a non-paper by the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, is just a bullet point list of potential topics that could be included in the final COP27 decision. Our correspondent, Ayola Kasim, has more.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Over the past few days, heads of state and governments have demonstrated leadership, political will, and commitment to the notion of implementation publicly here in Sharm el-Sheikh. But whispers within the corridors of the negotiating halls have not indicated that this will be reflected in the text.
Would have hoped, under the current circumstances, to see more willingness to cooperate and accommodate than we're seeing in the reports that we receive from the various negotiating tracks. But I can share with you that some delegations are holding back work in a number of rooms, and we really hope that everyone, as we say it, rises to the occasion and appreciates that business as usual is not enough right now.
The first cover document did not mention fossil fuel, but mentioned the $100 billion per year finance goal, its status and progress on the target. Egypt wants to see progress on the headline finance.
As you see, when you come to a negotiating table, the developed nations are not just going to accept your position. So you have to keep talking and talking. For instance, the $100 billion finance that they made their commitments that they were going to do, up till now, a lot of the countries, in the developed countries, have not been able to fulfill that. And we're saying, in fact, we need to even double that to 150. Some countries in Africa are even saying 600 billion. So you go big, and then they try in negotiation, if you ask for 600 billion, and they say, no, we cannot give you 600 billion, we will stop at 200, at least we've reached some milestones. So precisely that's where we are.
At the end of the day, it was President-elect Lula of Brazil that brought the much-needed chair to the conference venue, telling the delegates that his country is back.
Today I am here to say that Brazil is ready to join once again to the efforts to build a healthier planet, a world with more fairness, to welcome with dignity the totality of its inhabitants, and not only a privileged minority.
It is a COP of implementation, and we are now entering the moment to make it a reality. The released document says the cover decision will reflect the main outcomes on loss and damage, mitigation, and goal on adaptation. But at the moment, countries and blocs are divided on what progress should look like. Ayola Kasim, Channels Television News.
And back home to some more educational matters, the support of well-meaning individuals and groups in developing tertiary institutions in the country cannot be overemphasized, and that's according to the Sultan of Sokoto, Saad Abubakar III, who has been speaking on the value of quality education and the need to embrace alternatives to strikes in Nigerian institutions. Ali made his position known at the commissioning of Bola Babalakin Guest House donated to Fountain University of Osogbo by the Babalakin family.
It's another landmark and giant stride by the Babalakin family in its quest to promote qualitative education, national development and progressive philanthropy. This time, the family is donating a guest house to 10-year-old Fountain University Osogbo in Osun State to support its growth and progress. The Sultan of Sokoto is here to be a part of this occasion. He believes the recent strike embarked upon by university lecturers in ASU will have been nipped in the bud if proper dialogue prevailed, as he calls for more stakeholder support to lift the education sector.
by dialogue, by talking, continuous talking, because it's not today ASU started having problems with government, and they would never stop having problems with government. But the best thing is, anytime there's a problem, you sit down and discuss, find a way out. Government cannot fund all educational issues. People like what you have seen now today, the projects being executed here, people should come in and help all these tertiary institutions so that we can have a better situation in our schools.
The Osun State Governor is excited by this project and the growth of Fountain University, but highlights the need for proper maintenance of the noble structure.
It's one thing to have a project, such as the one being handed out today. It's another thing to maintain it. I charge the beneficiaries of this project to ensure prompt and adequate maintenance of the facility, such that it will attract other donors who want to do more. On our part, we shall continue to provide the enabling environment for you to operate.
For the man representing the donor family, this project will bring income, attract scholars, and lift the profile of the institution.
This project was conceived by the Babalaki family in honor of our father when he was alive. The whole idea was the university was at its infancy and required financial support. We thought that the best way to support the university is to create income-generating institutions of the university.
This guest house in Fountain University has 25 rooms and modern facilities attached, and stakeholders have assured the donors they will keep it well maintained going forward.
Well, let's switch gears now on the news at 10. It's time for business news with Will Ibang.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Kayode. The African Development Bank, AFDB, in partnership with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, EBRD, and the French Development Agency have launched the Gender Equality in Climate Action Accelerator. The accelerator seeks to support private sector companies improve the gender responsiveness of their corporate climate governance. According to the AFDB, the tool will also help African governments develop policies to accelerate their green transition. The EBRD, on their part, cites as benefits better access to green skills and jobs, more support for innovative entrepreneurship in the green economy, and the scaling up of investments into sustainable business practices. Now, the Ogun State Governor, Mr. Dapo Abiodun, has presented 472.25 billion naira as a proposed budget for 2023 to the State House of Assembly, the fourth of his administration. In the appropriation bill tagged Budget of Continued Development and Prosperity, the government proposed 201.84 billion naira as recurrent expenditure, while 270.41 billion naira was budgeted for capital spending. According to Governor Abiodun, the 2023 transition budget model is revenue-driven through the state medium-term revenue strategy. And now we go straight to the equities market, where it closed in negative territory today, reversing yesterday's gains. Let's hear it from Laddie Williams.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, apparently yesterday's rebound is looking more like a dead cat. And it's not by a big margin though, just 0.09%, and we're still holding on to that 44,000 level. Remains to be seen if this level holds going forward. Market cap 23.971 trillion naira. Let's look at the activity chart there. We see it's subdued selling pressure. Value much lower than what we're used to there, 847 million naira there. That's the value of what was traded today. 97 million units. That's volume. Deals also lower than what we're used to. 2,980. Gainers counter there. We see Unilever topping that counter, closing at 11 naira. Stanbic there, 13 naira. UPL 1.83, up 8.93%. Let's look at the top losers counter. We see Guinness again from yesterday. Still sell pressure with this stock there, down 9.97%. Also Scar, 1.29 kobo, down 9.79%. And again, it's a negative market breadth. 13 stocks gained, while 20 stocks declined. Final trading day for the week tomorrow. Let's see how it closes. As a stock market report, I'm Ladi Williams. It's back to you.
Thanks, Ladi. We do hope to see some green flashes in tomorrow's trading session. Now let's see the closing numbers for other major global equities. And that's it on Business News. It's back to Kayode for the rest of the news.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Well, thanks, Will. On the foreign scene, U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has announced she's standing down from her position. The 82-year-old is the most powerful Democrat in Congress and the first woman to serve as Speaker of the House. Meanwhile, China's Xi Jinping has been filmed accusing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of leaking meeting details after they held talks at the G20 summit in Bali. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. China's Xi Jinping has been filmed accusing Justin Trudeau of leaking meeting details days after they held talks at the G20 summit in Bali.
Everything we discussed is then leaked to the paper. That's not appropriate.
In a very rare moment, President Xi told the Canadian Prime Minister via a translator this was inappropriate and accused him of lacking sincerity.
Canada, we believe in free and open and frank dialogue, and that is what we will continue to have.
Mr. Trudeau responded by saying that in Canada they believe in free and open and frank dialogue, and that is what we will continue to have. Before Mr. Trudeau could finish, President Xi said that he first creates the conditions, eventually shaking Trudeau's hand and walking away. Ukraine says it has found the bodies of 63 civilians bearing signs of torture near the recently liberated city of Kherson. Russia has repeatedly denied committing atrocities in its invasion, but evidence is mounting of torture and civilian murder. Meanwhile, more strikes have been reported days after one of Russia's most intense bombardments of the war. Here, a strike on a building in Dnipro. Officials say a gas production facility and a missile factory in the city were among the latest targets, and that at least 4 people died in one area. Members of the Kenya Defence Forces have arrived at DRC's Goma airport as fighting between the army and M23 rebels has flared again in the last week. The soldiers are part of the troops of the East Africa Community Regional Force and were seen chanting at the airport. Described by a United Nations Special Envoy as increasingly acting as a conventional army, the M23 have staged a major offensive this year, seizing territory and sparking a diplomatic row between DRC and Rwanda. The UK Chancellor has announced tens of billions of pounds in tax rises and spending cuts in the autumn statement.
Mr. Speaker.
Jeremy Hunt acknowledged the UK is in recession, but says his plan will help rebuild the economy and reduce debt. He announced a freeze in income tax thresholds, which will mean millions of people pay more in tax as their wages rise. Households will also pay more in energy bills from April.
The first difficult decision I take on tax is to reduce the threshold at which the 45p rate becomes payable from £150,000 to £125,140. Those earning £150,000 or more will pay just over £1,200 more in tax every year.
Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves responded, saying the country was sick of being ripped off by the Tories.
3 Prime Ministers, 4 Chancellors and 4 budgets later. And where do we find ourselves? in a worse place than we started the year. Inflation spiralling, growth plunging, living standards falling. Mr. Speaker, Britain is a great country with fantastic strengths, but because of this government's mistakes, we are being held back. What people will be asking themselves at the next election is this: are me and my family better off with a Conservative government? And the answer is no.
And a life-size statue of the British writer Virginia Woolf has been unveiled in London following a 5-year, £50,000 fundraising campaign. The statue of a smiling wolf sitting on a park bench looking at the River Thames was placed in the city's southwestern suburban district of Richmond, where the writer lived for a decade. Attending the ceremony were the statue's sculptor and 3 descendants of Woolf.
I feel this is a wonderful way to celebrate her time, not only in Richmond, but her life altogether. And I'm very pleased to see that she's been represented in a very natural way. You know, she was a thinker. She was somebody who was interested in people, and I hope that when they come and sit next to her, they'll sense her intelligence and her love of humanity.
It's an amazing honor for me to have been able to be selected to be the sculptor who would do this work. I think most sculptors would have bitten their hand off, somebody's hand off, to be able to do this sculpture, because this author is such an amazing person. And so any female sculptor would have been proud to do it.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. We're starting off in Lisbon, where the Super Eagles of Nigeria have been beaten 4-0 by Portugal in a pre-World Cup friendly for the Euro 2016 champions. 2 first-half goals from Bruno Fernandes and second-half strikes from Goncalo Ramos and João Mario gave the Portuguese a comfortable victory in their farewell match before preparing for the World Cup in Qatar. Nottingham Forest striker Emmanuel Dennis missed a penalty for Nigeria in the game played at the Jose Alvalade Stadium. Senegal forward Sadio Mane has been ruled out of this year's FIFA World Cup owing to a leg injury. The African Player of the Year emerged as a doubt for the early stages of the tournament on account of an injury to his right fibula. But Senegal were hopeful that he will be fit for the later stages, but officials have now confirmed he will not be in the squad to Qatar. FIFA has announced that President Gianni Infantino will stand unopposed for a 3rd term as head of World Football Governing Body next year. FIFA said that Mr. Infantino would be the only candidate when the election takes place at the 73rd FIFA Congress in Kigali, Rwanda on March the 16th, 2023. And that's a wrap on sports news.
Well, thanks a lot, Ayatunde. And the main news again. The Labour Party presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, today outlined his developmental agenda for various regions of the country. He vowed to build a new future for Nigeria. As Mr. Obi was speaking in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, during the inauguration of the Nkpolu-Orok flyover. Also today, Governor Nyesom Wike pledged to provide logistic support for the Labour Party presidential flag bearer, Mr. Peter Obi, in the 2023 presidential election. And the APC presidential candidate, Chief Bola Tinubu, today met with business community in the Southeast region, where he promised to address their concerns and enhance their business operations. And that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikiolu. Good night.